My God, 10 years we have waited for this fight, and my God, what a fight it was. Khan versus Brook. I'm a bit speechless, which isn't any good as we're doing a stream, but my God, as I said, 10 years we've waited for it. It was worth it. That is going to be remembered as one of the fights. And I think the only regret people are going to have, and I'm sure you lads will agree, the fact it only went on for 5 rounds, wasn't it? I think that's the only regret everyone's going to have, because I would have loved to have seen 12 rounds of that. That was something that British boxing is all about. Whether they were at the best, whether they were not, it didn't matter to me. That was absolutely brilliant. Guys, before we jump into the rest of the reaction, make sure to hit that like button and also subscribe to the Between the Ropes TV for more great boxing content. Right, I'm going to throw it over. Josh, that's going to go down in history, and it one for the record books, despite their age, despite everything. That was brilliant.
Absolutely. I am so buzzing Kell Brook won that.
Yeah.
All week I was predicting Khan to win. I really was. I just thought he'd be a bit fresher. The way everything, as they said, he was the A side. It was all put in Khan's favour. There was the absolute shambles about the gloves and all it's contracted and all the rest of it. Brook changed his gloves in the ring and still stops him. He made Khan look an absolute joke at times there. I will respect Khan's heart, genuinely. I think he could have gone down a few times and, he showed his warrior spirit. But what a man Kell Brook is, and what a performance. And before I let Ray in, I'm not sure if he's going to let me have it, because I did change my official prediction in our group chat yesterday. Ray, am I going 3-0 up here, or are you keeping me at 2-0?
No, to be honest, you did say for the majority of the week. And to be honest, it was a close fight. It was a close fight. You understand that people do. That's when you know you've got a good fight. When you wake up one day and you think, I'm leaning towards that fighter, then you wake up another day and think it could be this fighter. I mean, I did say both fighters have got very little left. Even Kell Brook, with the performance that he gave, I still think that if Amir had planted his feet and landed harder shots, he could have really hurt Kell. But then again, he would have planted his feet and left himself open to counter. Look, it was a great performance by Kell Brook. He systematically broke him down, I think, from round 4. I had it level at round 4. I think I can't remember which round it was now, but one of the rounds, Amir was winning. And then in the last sort of 20 seconds, Kell just turned it around.
He did that in a couple of rounds, didn't he, Ray?
Sorry, what was that?
He did that in a couple of rounds where you just felt like you were feeling like it was going to be an Amir Khan round, and then Kell just exploded late and connected quite well. And of course, the round that did lead to the knockout, he got it pretty much the first punch of the fight, didn't he? He got it the first punch of the round. Sorry, that jab that caught Amir off balance, really. And I think from then on, we kind of knew that it was going to be a really hard task to get through that round.
Yeah, he caught him with a standing jab as Amir Khan hadn't even reset, and that was really worrying for me, because I was saying that was the same thing Crawford did to Brook, and yeah, Amir just, when Amir Khan did let his hands go, he looked okay when he stayed on the outside. The problem was when me and Josh did a video, we titled it Amir Khan's got no ring IQ, and that's what he saw. It was almost like he was throwing punches without any intellect behind it. He was just throwing his punches. He wasn't too sure where his feet were. He wasn't too sure about the distance. He was just throwing punches, hoping. It was just like a hit and hope.
There was no accuracy whatsoever. I mean, the speed is still there, but that accuracy was... And it was missing from the first round. I think, certainly everybody sort of thought Khan's speed would start to fade off after the 4th or 5th round. And I think, halfway through the 4th round for me, his legs started to look a little heavier. And I think that 35-year-old body, in fairness to him, he's been in a lot of, tough fights, hasn't he, Amir Khan? Been stopped a few times, as we've covered. But I think we saw he was 35 tonight. Kell Brook, however, let's just clap the man.
I'll join in with that applause. I think that Khan sustained some big shots, didn't he? And I think over time you just saw him wear down. I think within the 3rd round you sort of saw his legs starting to go. He was holding in, and I think I agree. I wonder if he was just throwing for throwing's sake. We know sometimes that the judges can be favourable when you're throwing more, even if they're not connecting. We've seen a few controversial decisions maybe that's what he was hoping. Maybe he didn't anticipate how good Brook's reflexes were going to be as well, because yes, we
I
saw
think
that
that's it,
Khan still
Scott.
had,
I think that was more it.
yeah,
I just don't think Khan believed that Brook had any sort of reflexes left. And I think he threw that. I think he thought that if he threw, your fives, your sixes, one of them would land and one of them would land on that eye. I still believe
yes,
that at some point, I think it was in round 2, Kell's eye, he started to feel his eye. And I
He
think
did.
I could see what Amir Khan's game plan was. Throw as many shots, just throw shots. One of them will hit his eye.
cut that
And then
open,
push him
cut that
back from
open.
there.
It's
And I think
job
that's
done.
what he was trying to do. But Brook was the stronger man by far.
I
Yeah,
mean, one thing you could say with Brook, and I felt like even though he got the win, he did let his heart get to it at times, didn't he? In the
Oh
early
yeah, he
rounds,
was.
and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I felt that was the difference maker for me, because I think from the 4th and the 5th round, he stopped letting his heart get so involved, and we saw in the 4th round he landed a good punch, and I thought, he's going to dive in here. He's going to dive in. He didn't. He was calm. He was collected. And he did so in the 5th round as well. Yes, he went in for the knockout, but he was very calm and collected. The earlier times that we saw him get the shots in the earlier rounds, he was almost going into just going into finish. I felt at times he let his heart in the earlier rounds get the better of him. And then he came more calm and collected. I think maybe where he really felt this fight is mine. I've got the time to just wait my turn and I'll get him eventually. Do you reckon is that something you'd agree with, Josh?
Yeah, no, definitely. He was loading up. I think, the heated rivalry was there for all to see in the build-up, and I think Brook carried that into the fight. And we highlighted it in one of our preview videos about, when Johnny Nelson said to him, how are you going to control your anger? And he was like, it's a good question. Yeah. And I don't think he did in the earlier rounds, to be fair. And I'm going to put it out there. I honestly think if he'd have got behind his jab quicker and stop just loading up, because he was just wildly swinging, like loading up and going for the shots at times. And I think if from round 1, if he'd have, worked behind his jab and boxed his way in, I think it'd have been done within 3 rounds, because, as we've just said there, you had it even. I think we all had it even through 4, but round 5, Brook just took Khan apart, and it's because he boxed properly, like we all know he can. And then obviously at the very start of the 6th round, he got him out of there. I just want to ask you guys a quick question. Obviously, a lot's been made of whoever would win the fight was whoever has the most left. We saw Chris Eubank Jr. obviously just before. I'm not sure, talking about he'd like to fight Kell Brook next. Would you guys want to see that fight? Because I actually would. I've got to be honest.
I would, but I kind of feel that it's going to be a name, isn't it, now, for obviously Eubank Jr. to get himself put up there, put about maybe for the big title fights we know that he eventually wants to go into. But as much as Kell Brook won this, I still saw enough to think he's way over the hill, and it is a fight I'd want to see, but part of me just thinks, especially being a massive Kell Brook fan, you've done everything you ever wanted to do. This Amir Khan win was the last thing to tick off. What's the point? I don't know if you agree, Ray.
I don't want to see it.
No.
I said the winner of this fight should just take this as their crowning moment, their Carl Froch moment, if you like, their 80,000 Wembley, and then walk off on your own terms. The other side of that question, Josh, is that it tells you a lot about Chris Eubank Jr. It's not his night, so I don't want to talk too much about him, but I would say is he should be focusing on fighting genuine middleweights for a genuine middleweight world title if he thinks he's a good enough fighter. He shouldn't be calling out welterweights, encouraging them to move up. No, I mean, yeah, we know that Kell Brook really isn't a welterweight, but if he beats Kell Brook, which he would do, everyone will say, well, he was a welterweight. So Chris Eubank Jr., pick on someone your own size.
Yeah, and I think the thing with that, he sees it as a big name. Whoever won this is going to be in the headlines.
Yeah.
Maybe for the casual fan as
it's
well.
It's about that, Scott, isn't it? That's what he's wanting.
Payday, yeah.
And it's a big name. He beats them, and then he's probably talking about, well, where's my title shot now? I think one thing that obviously we did see going back to obviously the Khan versus Brook fight, at the end, it was nice to see that, you know, they were there smiling for pictures of each other. You saw how Khan was. I think he was basically in tears at the end. I think he really believed it was his moment. But I think Brook, and we saw this in the build-up, all he's ever wanted really was Khan to respect him, and he got that, didn't he, tonight? And it was nice to actually see all the disrespect that happened in the week coming up to it, all the hate that you could clearly see in the fight as well. It just ended nicely, didn't it, for me? I think, you know, both of them very respectful at the end, and fair play to Amir Khan as well, because I think, as Sky Sports said, he could have easily just gone, I'm not stopping for any of this, I've lost, and I'm going to just go back to my dressing room. I think a lot of fighters, and maybe even Kell Brook himself, would have done that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you can't not respect each other after that. You know, Khan said a lot about the schooling that he gave Brook in this sparring. That's hearsay. Yeah, that's hearsay. Brook denies it. But, you know, what we've seen in front of 20,000 people in Manchester, however many hundreds of thousand pay-per-view buys it's done, what we've seen is two older, fine, but warriors go at it for no world title, purely for pride and bragging rights. Khan, he's lost quite badly tonight for me, but he showed proper heart, proper spirit, and respect to him for staying in there at the end. And for Brook, it's that he's got that respect now, and you've got to respect each other after a fight like that.
One question I wanted to ask to kind of finish the discussion is the fact that, you know, if you're Amir Khan now, we know that, I mean, he's claimed he's not avoided the fight, but whether it's the fact he's avoided it or just not took it because for him it didn't feel like the right time to do so. Kell Brook's been chasing this for 10 years. Do you reckon maybe Amir Khan's going to sit there, reflect tonight and think, why didn't I just take him when I was at my best?
That's an absolutely amazing question, because that's the first thing I thought. I had it on good authority that he did bash him in sparring all those years ago, but you can see why. He went to the Olympics. Kell Brook was nowhere near that, but that was then. This is now, and what matters is what happens now. And yeah, you're right. When Amir Khan was at his peak, when he was unified 140 champion, and then when he moved up after fighting Devin Alexander, that's probably when he was at his best chance of beating Kell Brook. But look, he didn't, and it's Kell Brook's night. And like Josh has said, you know, neither of them had anything left compared to what years ago. But Kell Brook was a lot better on the night. It was even at one stage, but then Kell Brook took over and dismantled him. You know, let's not beat around the bush. He clinically bashed him up in there. So yeah, Amir Khan's probably going to have a lot of regrets, thinking he should have taken it. And you're right. You're right, because the way you put the question is, we don't really know whether he avoided him, whether it was a team decision, whether his management directed him. But at the end of the day, he'll be regretting not taking that fight earlier on.
I think so, definitely. And of course, we saw an undercard. And firstly, before I go on a bit of a negative about that, I want to extend my congratulations to Tasha Jonas. She finally got that world title shot. But it was a bit of a disappointing undercard, weren't it? We saw too many fights end in the first round. And yes, COVID had a massive influence on that. I'm getting a bit sick, I'll be honest. I'm getting a bit sick of seeing these fights, which are just to give these up-and-coming fighters a win on the cards to make them look good. We paid £20 for this fight. If you want to do that, do it on a free-to-watch, in my opinion. I wanted to see more competition. I wanted to see more good fights. But Josh, I'll hand it over to you just to wrap up. I don't think there's any point spending too long on this. What did you make on it? Because I weren't impressed at all, I'll be honest.
No, I was happy for Natasha Jonas. You know,
correct.
She's had opponents changes. She more than deserves a world title shot. I think I'd love to see her in. Hannah Rankin was there. You know, get that unification made, and then Fraser Clark. It was like they said, the guys had some white collar fights, so that was always going to happen. But fair play to him. He was braver than I actually thought he'd be. I thought it might be like, there's a jab.
It was a terrible fight, though. I mean, that bloke did not look anywhere near the level, but sorry.
No, but they never said he was. In fairness to them, they've had opponents changes. They couldn't get an opponent. No, I know. It's a box office card. They can't.
It just looked funny. It just looked funny watching it.
No, I know that, but at the same time, we've got to get these fights happening. It's a box office card. You can't lose Fraser Clark off it as GB.
No, I agree. I know.
2 days before. I was impressed with both Azim brothers, particularly Adam. I thought they were both good. Unfortunately, Hassan couldn't get his guy out of there. And then Brad Ray, what a shot! You know, punch
That
of the
left
gods.
uppercut,
Yeah, to get a stoppage win. So
Yeah.
wasn't the best undercard, but I think with how fragmented British boxing is between BT, DAZN, and Sky, and you know Dennis Hobson and all these other people, I think this is probably the future now. There's too many shows in town, if you like. So I think apart from Matchroom, I don't think we're going to be getting these stacked undercards.
No, you're probably right. And obviously, just a quick shout out to obviously Vidal Riley picking up the win. Obviously, not a lot of people will know him from basically YouTube and also being KSI's trainer as well. So shout out.
But he had a good amateur background as well. That needs to be said just on the final point.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, that has been the reaction. Please do let us know your thoughts in the comments. And more importantly, hit that like button, subscribe. It helps us out so much. And we'll see you for what's going to be another great week of boxing next week. We're going to have all the previews and everything coming up, as well as a nice couple of interviews as well. So watch out for those. Goodbye.